couple weeks ago, my friends convinced me to install an app called Hinge. It's a dating app that's supposed to bring out your personality over your looks. It does this by giving you prompts that you answer that show up on your profile, so people aren't just looking at pictures. One of the prompts that I came across said something along the lines of, "We'll get along if you believe Helen Keller was fake." Upon coming across this, I thought it was very weird. Very strange. Not something I'd heard before. But that's all I thought it was. Just weird and strange. And so I continued swiping. Until I came across it again. Very similar prompt, very similar answer. Helen Keller. Fraud. I just thought it was very weird that all these people on the app don't believe in Helen Keller. For some reason. Like, what a weird thing not to believe in. Helen Keller? But it intrigued me because of how weird it was. And so I wanted to dive a little deeper to understand where this conspiracy theory came from. And it didn't take long for me to find the exact source because, I mean, let's be real, there's only one place where these things really pop off. Is TikTok. Like, of course it's TikTok, you know, that's where all these things happen. This is where all the new conspiracy theories come from, all the memes, all the new what's in, what's good. This is where you go to find it. And so I really wanted to understand why people were thinking Helen Keller was not real. Why would they think this? What's the evidence to back it up? What do they got going for it, you know? Because, of course, if somebody's going to believe in something, there's got to be some kind of evidence, right? Basically, people don't understand how somebody who is both deaf and blind is able to accomplish things. Now, I've seen a handful of videos, and in all the videos, they list off a handful of things that Helen Keller has done in her life while being deaf and blind. And they talk about how that should be impossible. Basically things like, how did Helen Keller write books? How did Helen Keller learn to talk? How did Helen Keller fly a plane? But instead of me just sitting here telling you what all the things are that these people are saying, let's just take a look at what they're saying, huh?
This is a long, detailed explanation with research on why Helen Keller just simply did not exist. Like, there's just no fucking way. Apparently, she went blind and deaf at the same time at 19 months. Like, have not researched the illnesses, but let's just pretend that she did go blind and deaf from the illnesses from the 1800s. Now she's saying that she got a teacher. Her name was Anne. She instructed Helen on her palm. Like, she goes on her palm and she, like, draws with her finger the letters. If you were 19 months, how the fuck do you know what a letter looks like? Then it says within days, she learned her first word. What? Okay, water was your first word?
Really? Water was your first word? That's your first word? Not mommy, not daddy, but water? Yeah, that's fake. That's fake news. Nobody's first word is water, okay?
Also, how are you forming words if you never knew what the alphabet looked like? You don't know how to form a word yet.
So I could kind of understand, I guess, why somebody would struggle to understand how somebody could learn language when being deaf and blind. I never ever questioned Helen Keller's ability to do so because I was forced to watch the Helen Keller movie when I was in middle school. And I can assure you that this person didn't watch that movie. Basically, Anne would sign letters and words into Helen Keller's hands, and in her other hand, she'd be touching whatever is being signed in her hand. So, for example, with the whole water thing, she would have running water going through her hand while in the other hand being signed the word water. And then Anne would give Helen a little treat whenever she signed it back. I mean, Pavlov's dogs, what can you say? And eventually, Helen Keller was able to connect the two things together. And Helen Keller would go on to form words and sentences and understand how language worked.
At the end of the month, she was reading complete stories. What? She's reading Braille. That's fine. That's accomplishable. Valid.
Listen, if you're deaf and blind and you read Braille, that's fine. That's accomplishable. Valid. Don't worry. I give you the pass. You could be deaf and blind. I'll give it to you. You know Braille. You're just going back on your argument. You made the argument that it's impossible for Helen Keller to learn language while being deaf and blind, and then you accept the fact that she learned a language.
Finally, she's an author, writing books and an autobiography. Bitch, who taught you how to type?
Ultimately, it just comes down to a very small amount of evidence and just a lot of being confused, not being able to understand how it happened. That's it. But don't worry, we have more.
Okay, so I don't know how we were all fed the same lie as a child, but there's no way that Helen Keller was real.
There's just no way we were fed that lie. That's a fed lie. They fed us that lie.
Sight and sound be damned, she dumped straight into the right seat of a 4-engine Douglas C-54 Skymaster, an impressive aircraft for anyone to tackle. She flew a plane.
Let me break down this whole plane conspiracy real quick, okay? She kind of flew a plane. You know how, like, you're a kid and you sit on your parents' lap in the car and you, like, put your hands on the steering wheel? That's what Helen Keller did, okay? Like, yeah, technically, she was in the driver's seat, but, I mean, she wasn't in full control, okay?
This picture has nothing to do with the rest of the video. I thought it just looked fun and I wanted to share it.
Bro, that is a pretty funny picture. I LOL'd. Thanks for sharing.
How do you know what you're doing when you can't see your hands? And I understand that it's just feel. How do you know what it means, though?
What is true love? How do you know that? How do you feel that? How do you know? How do you know?
Because you have no base understanding of what anything is. There's no way.
There really is just no way. Next video.
Alright, so we gotta talk about this whole Helen Keller thing, because I've had enough. I've heard it my whole life. She's deaf, she's blind, she's amazing. No, guess what? She lied. She's a liar. Her and that monster, Anne Sullivan, pulled the wool over our eyes, and nobody's thought to question it.
I can't believe that monster Anne Sullivan pulled the wool over our eyes. Bro, who says that? Who says pulled the wool over our eyes? I'm starting to think that this guy can't actually talk or see. I'm starting to think that this guy is actually deaf and blind, and he's pulling the wool over us.
Does this look like the signature of somebody that was blind and deaf? This is what they put out, and we all just ate it up.
Something about her signature and with most of her writing is she actually used a ruler to write so that she would have straight lines, as this gentleman is pointing out to us. While watching these videos, I find myself asking, why? Why would anybody care? Like, what? Let's just pretend that Helen Keller was not actually deaf or blind. For what reason would she fake being deaf and blind? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, Helen Keller is known for improving the deaf and blind, like, accessibility in the world, improving how deaf and blind people are taught things so that they can better understand and learn and overcome their disability. Why would you want to smear Helen Keller when that's her legacy? But then I discovered something, okay? I discovered something, and I'm not trying to make any significant connections here or start a conspiracy theory myself. I will say when this whole conspiracy theory, this whole Helen Keller trend started popping off on TikTok is around the same time that a certain documentary was released. There was a certain documentary released in 2020 called Her Socialist Smile, and it was about Helen Keller and her political standings. If you didn't know, Helen Keller was a socialist. She was in the Socialist Party at the time. She was against military intervention. She believed in equality for everybody. She believed in uplifting the poor and giving them better lives. And she helped found the American Civil Liberties Union. Helen Keller at the time even claimed that a lot of people recognized her accomplishments until they found out about her political standings. Helen Keller even mentioned that there were a lot of articles and news outlets that stopped posting her work and stopped talking about her once they found out about her political standings. I think there's a good chance that somebody watched that documentary and all of a sudden didn't like Helen Keller. I mean, why else would you want to smear Helen Keller's name? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think any of the people that I really watched were really completely serious. I think for the most part, we're all on board that Helen Keller was actually deaf and blind. Like, I think most of us can agree with that, I think. But I'm sure there's some TikTok kids out there who came across this conspiracy theory and genuinely started believing it. I don't know. I think the only other way this conspiracy theory really starts is kind of just as a joke. There are already other Helen Keller memes on there that have been there for a long time, you know? So it's not that crazy that somebody would make a joke video of, oh, how did Helen Keller write a book? How'd she do that? She's deaf and blind. She can't see. And I can see that video getting some traction and maybe, you know, encouraging other people to make similar videos, and then it starts the conspiracy theory. As most things in America, everything becomes political. Literally everything. I could already see it. If you believe Helen Keller was deaf and blind, you must be some kind of dirty leftist. Some kind of dirty liberal. And all the truth sayers, they know Helen Keller was fake. So yeah, kind of a crazy thing I just stumbled on out of nowhere. Literally out of nowhere. Like, who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk that I would have discovered that on Hinge? Kind of crazy. Well, I don't think I really have anything else to add. Yeah, that's going to be it for me, I think. Alright, end the video.